Hello, this is Patricia Garner with the League of Women Voters of Portland, and you are watching the Video Voters Guide or listening to our podcast. We're here today to talk with candidates running in the November 5th, 2024 general election. And we're grateful for the support of the Carol and Velma Salling Foundation, the League of Women Voters of Portland Education Fund, the Weiss Foundation, and our media partner, Metro East Community Media. With me today is Steph Routh, running for City Council District 1, that generally covers Portland east of I-205. Welcome, Steph, and please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for office.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing this opportunity to have a forum. This is a very important election. My name is Steph Routh. I'm running for Portland City Council District 1, which is East Portland in our new district system. I grew up in Park Rose neighborhood. I live in Lentz. I've actually lived east of 82nd Avenue the majority of my life. So just seeing the new district lines being drawn helped me just get very excited about the idea that on the first day of the new administration, East Portland will have more representation than in City Hall than in the cumulative history of Portland City Council. So I'm very excited about that. I have done a lot of coalition building. I imagine we might talk about it as the first executive director of Oregon Walks. And I currently have the pleasure and honor of serving on Portland's Planning Commission, which allows me the opportunity to have a deep understanding of housing policy and how zoning code can look and help us build better outcomes, particularly for our homeless and housing crises.
What are your ideas for working productively with the other council members from your district?
It's a great question. Well, one skill that I bring to this moment in our city's history is that of coalition building, which I just mentioned. As former executive director of Oregon Walks, I developed and supported a number of coalitions. One of Oregon Walks' values during my time there was that we never walk alone to pursue worthy goals. We didn't then, and I'm so proud to see that the organization is continuing that tradition with their current work. I filed an intent to run for Portland City Council early because I believe we have a rare chance to build a more collaborative organizational culture in Portland city government. And I believe in order to be successful, that work needs to start on the campaign trail. I've been pretty excited to see that, in fact, that many of us have built good relationships, and I have developed really strong relationships and partnerships with other colleague candidates inside of District 1 and throughout the city.
Another question. What, if any, actions would you consider taking to address the current concerns related to the critical energy infrastructure hub on the Willamette River?
Yeah, this is an important question, and for the CEI hub, but also, there are similar patterns with a couple of other areas in the city. And I think that there are some similar concerns that we need to be addressing. One is like in Northwest Portland, around the Northwest Industrial, including CEI, but there are a couple of areas. And also in East Portland, around the Columbia Corridor, in Park Rose neighborhood, for example, there's a Prologis facility that is currently in construction that is just a couple of blocks from, it's a warehouse distribution site that's being built that is just a few blocks from Park Rose Middle and High Schools. So I think for both of those, we really need to be looking at a few things. One, all three of those areas have a really close relationship of residential residential neighborhoods and industrial uses and industrial land. And so I think we need to be looking at how do we have more intentional conversations about the interface and the consequences of residential to industrial and both ways in that. I also think for the CEI hub, the Critical Energy Infrastructure Hub, we really need to be looking at uh, things like because a number of those silos are unreinforced masonry. So how do we see seismically retrofit those? And also how are we diversifying and distributing that fuel base so that not one area holds all of that fuel. So I think that there's a number of issues that we need to be dealing with there.
You're listening to the Video Voters Guide interview and podcast of Steph Routh, who's running for Portland's District 1 City Council. Another question, are you satisfied with the performance of the Joint Office of Homeless Services? If not, what changes would you support? And please explain.
These are great questions. Thank you for that. I think that there's broad consensus that that there has been a slow rollout and questions around a slow rollout of the funding for that is supporting homeless services and also affordable housing and siting shelters. I also think that there are questions around accountability and I think that that can be the case of anytime there's joint responsibility between city and county. So I think going forward, because I think that we really need to be looking at, we can spend a lot of time, whose issue was it? Who was to blame? Sorry, that is my dog. Who is to blame? But I think going forward, the lessons that we can learn are how do we build accountability and a dashboard into our shared work? How do we distribute the roles and clarify the roles? And also, I think that we can take a step back and say that there is more than the county and the city in terms of siting shelters and providing wraparound services. I think we need to also be bringing in Metro, which is a critical partner for both funding and management in land use. How do we engage all of our partners to ensure that there's accountability, there is sufficient funding, and there is a plan of action that we all know our roles in achieving our goals.
Thank you, Steph Routh. This concludes our Video Voters Guide and podcast interview of the League of Women Voters of Portland about Steph Routh, who's running for District 1 City Council, Portland City Council. And that covers Portland generally east of I-205. Remember, Election Day is Tuesday, November 5th. Be sure to inform yourself about the candidates and exercise your right to vote. Thank you for your interest.